Can subtlety be more powerful than directness?
Let's talk about love and marriage the way that God intended. Life experience, here we share it. The NoFruitPodcast. Tune in from any platform. NoFruitPodcast. We'll help your spirit transform.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. Going to be talking a little bit about subtlety and I guess maybe the quiet storm. I kind of fashion myself after that maybe because I can be a direct person, but I think within our relationship, I'm more of a quiet storm, to say the least. I am not overly, as I said, talkative or don't use a lot of words. I'm kind of that quiet force behind the scenes. And I, can drop subtle hints. I'm not one direct and say, hey, I want this and I want you to do that. But I do drop subtle hints about things. And sometimes they're taken wrong because I'm not direct. So that would be the one thing I would caution people, that if you are not direct, that sometimes people who are more in the direct fashion and seem to communicate more directly, that someone who is not as direct, they may not know how to receive that, and that can create distance or uncertainty within the relationship. But I think once each person understands one another and their personality, and that's how they communicate and that's how they function, then you learn how to work one with another. I think with Maurice and I having those two separate things, I think that makes us a better partnership, a better relationship, because we both were subtle, then things probably wouldn't get across very well. We both weren't able to communicate directly with one another and with others, with our children, with our family members, in the workplace, with the world, wherever that may be. I think it would, be a little bit more challenging. I'm not saying it doesn't work in relationships. I'm sure that there are relationships out there where both individuals are, quiet storms or quiet forces, a little bit more subtle. But I think at least for me and Maurice, being opposites in this attracts us even more. I think it makes us, as he would say, more of a power couple, because he's able to be direct in certain situations when needed. And then sometimes I come behind and can be quiet, or it's vice versa, where I kind of come off very quiet and say, this is what, quietly give the ask, but then he comes behind and is more direct when it's time to have that information come out in that manner. But then when dealing with one another, I think that is, like I said, sometimes the challenge of me not always being direct. I think I can at times, but most of the time with our relationship, I think that I'm a little bit more passive and not as communicative, not as forceful, direct, a little bit more subtle overall. And it's not saying that we don't go either way, because we're people. We're not always one-sided. We're 360. So we have multiple sides to us. So there are times where Maurice is a little bit more subtle in things. And I'm used to him being direct. So when he becomes subtle, I'm just sitting there like, what's next? Like, when are you going to say what it is, what you really want to say? And a lot of times he does that through his questions. So, he'll say, well, what's wrong with this? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he'll just ask the question again in another way. And I'm like, I don't know, but here we go with the riddle. I don't know. He says, you'll know, So think about it. Like, what do you think is wrong with this? So we have that part of our relationship of how we communicate in that way, where he's not being direct, or he's asking a direct question in a subtle manner. And I have to kind of use both sides of my brains to kind of figure out what it is he's asking for in order to move forward within the communication and the conversation. But then there's other times where he is subtle in a playful way. He leaves subtle hints on things, or we kind of, playfully banter back and forth in a subtle way, and it's not so direct where it's cutting, but just in a playful manner. And I think that makes the relationship fun at times. Leaving subtle hints. I think we've had times where we've kind of left notes for each other around the house, and those little subtle hints that way has added some playfulness to our marriage and to our life. Then there's he is he's a gift giver, so I think that's another subtle but direct way of doing things. So if I subtly say, oh, wow, I like that umbrella. It's like really, really colorful and whatnot. And I may not need another umbrella. I have one in the car. I have two in the car. I have one in my bag. There's one in the closet. I don't need another umbrella, but I'll just see one and I'm like, oh, wow, like that one opens differently and it's, colorful. All the other ones I have, are just plain straight one color. And then, that subtleness of a conversation, I wasn't necessarily being in any way saying I wanted a new umbrella. But Maurice will show up, a couple of days later with a package from Amazon, and, here it is, this colorful umbrella. And he's like, you said you wanted it. I'm like, no, I was just saying that I was just commenting that it was a nice umbrella. So again, just understanding communication and how we communicate and we connect sometimes can bring about those types of things, but he is one of small surprises in that manner of gift giving. So he's always looking for ways to give in that manner and take, at least from me, some of those subtle hints and make them into, hey, I'm fulfilling that. And I think he does it with the kids as well. Just those subtle little things that they may say. But he also likes the directness. Like he's like, it's that time of year where he starts holiday shopping. He's just straight with them. Like, what do you want for Christmas? Like, you guys are getting old. I can't play around with this. Like, tell me, give me a list of things that you want. And the oldest will start sending a list. Like, she will send text messages. I want this. I want this. I want this. And the younger one, he's not as up on top of it like that. Kind of like myself, so I don't really say a whole lot. But this year I'm doing a little bit better. I have a list somewhere on my desk. Here it is. So I have a few items already started there. Now I haven't done the research on them, so I'm going to be a little bit more direct and kind of get some research on what I'm looking for exactly. I think for me, I kind of live in some fantasy world where I think I want something. I think I've seen it somewhere, but when I go to research it, I can't find it. So yeah, one of the items is a new bathrobe. I kind of want what I have already, but it's really old and I can't find it again. So I'm still searching for something that's, spa-like, but not a terry cloth. I don't want a terry cloth, but I don't know. We'll have to, I'll keep looking and see. I have a little bit more, longer to try to find this item so that I can be direct and give a true list of this is the item that I want. And let them know about that, being both my husband and my two children, because they can go out and get these items as well. But there's, I think a little bit of a power in being quiet. And I think there's also power in being direct. Sometimes I think the quiet storm, being quiet, people can pay attention to those who are quiet in the room. And I think a lot of times we don't understand that. But, I hear different stories and like, oh, yeah, the little old lady, as soon as she said something, everybody listened, because she didn't say a whole lot. So that when that person speaks, everyone's ears perk up. But then there's other things where I can see the importance of someone being direct, and that they're saying what they want and what they mean right up front. And that's just the way that it is. So I can see the importance and the power in both of them and how they can be used in any kind of relationship, especially in a marriage, but also in any relationship, whether you're dealing with your children, your parents, your coworkers, whomever. I think there's a time and a place for both of these things, whether it's being direct or pushing things subtly. So just want to know how you all think, how do we all balance the mystery between transparency in a relationship? Tell us and let us know. Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the No Fruit Podcast, where we bring you fruitful conversations, ripened wisdom, and love that's deeply rooted. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who could use a little inspiration in their day. Until next time, stay rooted in love, and remember, every seed you plant today shapes the fruit of tomorrow.